Good afternoon, everybody. It's not that long ago since I was sat at the other side like that, a couple of years ago, coming to listen to this new way of electronic assessments and things, and shortly after that I sort of then became involved and here I am at this side speaking to you, so that's quite interesting. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with regulations, and you might not be familiar with some of the midwifery regulations, but you'll have something similar. So obviously for midwives we have standards for pre-registration, midwifery education, NMC, just as you'd have for nursing. We have what we call UCLAN is our ongoing record of achievement, ORA, some people call it other things, and that's an NMC requirement, and that's where in our ongoing record of achievement the students would record their interviews with their mentors, so they have a primary, intermediate and final interview. It's also where they would the final sign-off is in there, and there's lots of other information in there that they sort of record. All midwives have to have sign-off mentors, so it's slightly different than nursing. So
all nurses have to have sign-off mentors?
No, all midwives have to have, all student midwives have to have a sign-off mentor to assess anything. Okay. Yeah, so not just at the end. So for any assessments that a student midwife does, it has to be by a sign-off mentor. We obviously timesheets, because we've got to have 100% attendance in both theory and practice, NMC regulations. So we've got to record how many hours they spend in practice, how many hours they spend in theory. We've got to verify that, just like our nursing colleagues is at the end of the course. On the right-hand side there, I've got some what we call clinical assessment documents. My nursing colleagues at UCLAN call them practice assessment documents, PADs. We have CADs, but they're similar things. And again, they are the clinical competencies. Now those tend to be, apart from I know the London have, where all the universities do the same clinical assessments, but for us in the Northwest, each university tends to do their own clinical assessment documents. There isn't a standard assessment for competence. They're just based on the pre-registration midwifery assessments. Ours are based on the essential skills clusters for midwives, and we have primary practice and proficient level. And then we have the EU directives, which for midwives, and I'll put things up a bit later about that, but for midwives that talks about you've got 100 antenatal checks, 100 postnatal checks, so many deliveries and so many things that the students have to collect evidence of. And also because we do BFI, then the students, and they get the BFI certificate, the students have to get competencies around BFI and doing things with mums and babies, both in formula and breastfeeding, obviously. When I was looking at, because I was looking at, I don't just want to do the clinical assessment documents online with my progress. If I'm going for it, I'm going the whole hog. Yeah? I want everything. Silly me, but you know, record of achievement, BFI, timesheets, clinical assessment documents, EUs. I want everything there. Yeah, the students, if we're going paperless, we're going paperless, yeah? I don't want half a bits of paper, and yeah, so we're going the whole hog. Obviously, that creates a challenge, doesn't it? And, you know, we're going to digital learning technology. We've got people who are technophobes and things like that. So that's where I ended up coming and looking at, our university used PebblePad. I didn't like PebblePad. I thought it was quite cumbersome and you couldn't use it in the clinical area. You needed to be attached to internet. No good for us. And then that's how I got, and somebody said, well, go along to see this, you know, this My Progress thing. This will suit you, Jacqui, this will suit you. So that's where I ended up going. One of your first conferences, I can't even remember where it was now. Sheffield, yeah. Sheffield, yes. And that's where you know, things progressed on from there. Actually, it's really good to come into these sorts of places because I learnt a lot, and I went to a couple of conferences and I learnt a lot, and I learnt a lot of tips and highlights of things to do and not to do. And one of the things I found out at one of those conferences was Sean, and she said to me, Health Education England in our area was giving her some money to do a project. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I goes back to UCLAN, and then suddenly, you know, just before Christmas, you know what it's like, probably about, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, December. There's this thing came out from Health Education England Northwest. They want people to put bids in to do some projects, and this technology bid fitted in very nicely. So within a space of a day to write this bid out, you know, to me, you know, whatever, put it in, and luckily I got it accepted to do a pilot project. So luckily I was quite fortunate that I got some money to obviously get the software and pay for the license and things, and buy all my students, which had 41 students, some Samsung tablets, which obviously, because I thought, well, I wanted to have some control over that at the beginning and see how things go. So I was going to roll it out with 41 students, 26 long course students, so they do a 3-year course, 16 short course students who do like an 8 to 5 week short midwifery programme. They're already nurses. So unlike Sean, I did it with the first year student. Well, I know you did your pilot study, but we've done it with the pilot study, and that study started in September and is still ongoing. Obviously, we're still in, it's got to run its 12 months yet. But obviously, I'd got this money, got these tablets, but then I had to start putting everything together and to get ready and still make sure that we sort of complete and meet our requirements. So change, yeah, people don't like change. I don't mind change if it's for the better. I know I was going to face obstacles, and the road ahead was a bit unclear. And yeah, luckily I've got broad shoulders and I'm very resilient. So it does help, as Sean said, but off we go. But I do like a challenge. And I think that's challenges is what makes life interesting, isn't it? We'd be a bit bored if we didn't get challenged from time to time. So it's how you overcome them. So one of the main things I think around for the NHS and use of digital technology is sometimes around information governance. And issues have been related in studies. I know our Scottish colleagues have looked at a lot of research studies, and it's been alluded to by other speakers. And you know, we're going to go from a paper-based system to this electronic system. And I know, I remember right very early days, I think Sean has had a little bit of trouble initially sometimes with some information technology. That's why I say these conferences are great, because you get pick-up tips. And I thought, well, it can't be that difficult. And to be fair, it wasn't that difficult, because the information I was collecting was exactly the same. Yeah? I wasn't doing anything different. The information I was collecting, instead of being on paper, was just going to be in electronic form. I wasn't asking for any other information, any other details. It was all stuff that was taken away, or the students were taking away, and we had anyway. We link with 4 trusts. Our students go out to 4 trusts. In 3 of the trusts, I spoke to the IT people, and I think having face-to-face conversations and sort of going in there and meeting them sometimes is better than just emailing things. 3 of the 4 trusts I had no problem at all. Some of them were already using some electronic formats, and they were okay about it. One of the trusts said, oh, I don't know whether you can do that. You can't use, you know. I said, well, they're going to be bringing the tablets, the university tablets, the students will have their own tablets, and not be using mobile phones, because there was an issue about mobile phones. Oh, yeah, but, yeah. Anyway, after speaking to the IT departments and things for quite a little while, they sort of said, I said, well, you must have some areas where some of your consultant nurse, or some areas where they're using iPads or some electronic devices. You know, I knew that some of the areas, clinical areas, because this was quite a forward-thinking trust. Oh, yeah, well, we have this policy around, we already have a trust policy around bring your own device. So I said, all right, well, can you let me have a sight of that policy? You know what I mean? So they did give me, she very kindly emailed the policy. I sort of devised, wrote my own sort of bring your own device policy, and then got confirmed to them that obviously all our students as part of the core skills had undergone information governance training, and the students signed this form and then they were quite happy about it. And we could... now obviously I wasn't going to just give the form to the students that were with that trust. I thought, well, I might as well give it across to all the students. And it just lays out what they won't do, when they won't do it, and you know, they won't take pictures of clients, yeah, and devices shouldn't be stored in a car overnight and various things like that. It's quite basic things, and it sort of, and the students signed for it. The IT people were happy, and the students could use the devices in that trust. I know somebody mentioned before about, I think it was a student who mentioned about cameras, because one of the things there was about we didn't have, the use of cameras in the clinical area. Most of my students I got them the tablet, but hadn't got covers, so they bought a cover to put on the tablet, and we put some stickers on the back of the covers. I just printed some big stickers off, and that covered the camera hole up. And on the back it just said, this is an electronic device, UCLAN student for student assessment. So if the students were out on the ward with it, then they could see it was quite clearly identified that it was a device being used for student assessment. And I've not had any, to be fair, I've not had any issues with that. In terms of complying with other regulations, it was fairly straightforward. The ongoing record of achievement, and that's the NMC standards about ongoing record of achievement. One of the first things that the students do is sign a consent form before they even go out into clinical practice that the data can be shared with mentors. Yeah, and they do that on the tablet, and it's sort of a form that I've set up. They sign that so that we can share it with so obviously, obtain the student's consent is one of the first things on there. Robust things are put in place, yeah, because we've already said, and I'll allude to it again, the feedback comes very quickly. If the students aren't attaining or failing or whatever, you get it instantly, so things can be done about it, as long as somebody's monitoring it at the other end, of course. So there's lots of advantages, and a lot of these things have already been alluded to. One of the things I liked about it with the timesheets, because sometimes I don't know what your students are like, but sometimes my students were, you say, well, they're on placement for 6 weeks, hand your timesheets in every month or after every block of placement or whatever, and then like 3 or 4 months down the line you're having to chase them up because the timesheets haven't come in. Here, instantly, you get the timesheet information. Yeah, similarly, if students were off sick or something, you should get notified. You don't always get notified. I have had students who've lost documentation, and that can be quite detrimental in the sense that if you look at if we go back to that EU document where they record a lot of stuff, there's 100 postnatal, there's 100 antenatal. There's 40 deliveries, 40 cared for in labour. There's lots of information in there. It takes them 3 years to collect that information. Yeah. Now, if they lose that in their 3rd year, they haven't really got time to go back. Yeah. And redo it all again. Whereas this is a constant collection. It gives you lots of evidence, as we've already said. And again, one of the forms I set up, somebody was asking about service user feedback. I have set up a form on my system, because you can tailor the system to what you want, where the service user can actually input on the student's device. They don't even the mentor. You can give it if the service user or the client or the woman, because don't forget most of my women are quite healthy, or they're able to complete the form and they can send it in, and the student's got it as part of the record. And the thing about, as I said, they've got, and this about whether they've had their interviews at the right time. That's crucial, isn't it? And I've also set up on the form that I have at that midpoint interview, there's a question there, is the student on track to achieve? Yeah? Are they on target or whatever? If they're not on target, then there's things that, various things they can do. But also, it also helps because when they get to the end of the assessment, if they haven't had their midpoint interview, certainly from my university, I'm sure it's the same at other places, if they hadn't had the midpoint interview with all the things in place, then the assessment wouldn't be valid. Yeah, if the student hasn't been told they're at risk of failing, the assessment's not valid. So I've put in that thing that they've got to fill in. And obviously, again, it's checking that the things have been done, but when they're on placement, when they're going to be having those things done. So I think it does really help meet the standards. Just a couple. I know when I was sat there, one of the things that you really want to see is it in working, isn't it, or what it looks like, or what the interface is like. This is just a general report. You can run all sorts of reports off. But that sort of tells you, I can see a lot of these are linked, so where they're up to, what they've done on my framework, how many responses, yeah. So looking at these EU directives, I can see, they're getting on quite nicely. You can have an individual student, you can have a group report or whatever. They also, again, I think Sean showed you this earlier, but this is like the progress report. So this is, you build up a framework for your course. So for my framework, you can see I've got clinical assessment documents, I've got primary practice proficiency, so these are just the first user using it. So I can see, this is one particular student obviously, but she's done antenatal, she's done medicine management, she's done communication. She's still got intranatal and postnatal to do, and that should tally up where they've been on placements. She won't do practice and proficiency because that's set up for when she's in the second year and the third year. In the ongoing record of achievement, I can see that she's had 6 placement interviews, which would be right, because she should have had 3. She'll have had 2 placements if she's done that amount of things, so she's had 3 on each placement. And there's a comments page, working with others, so I have a form that is like multidisciplinary, so she's worked with evidence of multidisciplinary working, so if she's worked with healthcare assistants, if she's worked with a venipuncturist, hearing screen, anybody other than a midwife, they can fill a form in and get evidence of that. And obviously, attending mandatory training and things like that. So it gives, and then you can pick up different records and things like that. And obviously, for this student, this is where she's up to with EU directives. And I think this, so as you can see, for me, I was deploying a lot of forms, yeah? We deploy a lot of forms at the beginning of the year because they need all the EU directives. So this thing that they've just done, where I can categorise the assessment and put all these things here in the EU folder, so that the student can just go in that folder and put that, will make a huge difference. And I have to say that the company are very responsive, because as you're using it, because each of us have slightly different things or different ways we want to work or different things. But if you sort of say, oh, well, is this happening or that? Oh, yeah, well, we're looking at that because that, or we're looking at that. And they're very responsive and they're very welcoming to feedback and things, and keeping the software and the things up to date and tailoring it to what we need. Somebody once told me that we don't have problems, we only have solutions. I think that's probably quite a good philosophy to work by, really. Like all new things, people take time to adjust. Some people like technology, some people don't. Some people, will fight it tooth and nail. Other people go along with it. You know, a lot of the mentors have the concerns that they're not actually physically signing, yeah, or the falsification. But as we've already alluded to, losing records used to happen. Students could falsify the paper-based copy. Yeah, it's no different. Yeah, it's just as robust. In fact, I think it's more robust. And they've had the signature thing. I think that's more to keep the mentors happy rather than anything. I think the reduction of the number of emails to the mentors is a real good thing, because to do that's one of the bugbears is that, so can you imagine all those EUs? So if I've been a mentor and I've done, say, 5 or 6 antenatal checks with my student that day and a couple of postnatal checks, and then I've signed off the timesheets for the week, and then I might have done something else, can you imagine how many emails I'd get through? So I think the thing, you know, changing the emails or being able to condense them is massive. So, what I would say, it's certainly worth thinking about. Can be done. I think it helps you meet the regulations because it gives you more robust evidence and reporting systems, and it certainly does. I don't think the regulations are any barrier. It's certainly, you know, if you're thinking about it, it's certainly worth exploring. The challenges along the way, I think, are worth it in the end. And you can tailor the forms to what you need. Yes, I know you might have some concerns like me. My assessment documents are what I validated, so I can't redesign them. But it was simple enough for me to upload them onto my progress in a format that was representative of what the paper-based copy was. So, and again, for the mentors, there wasn't much difference. Yeah? Because they said, well, it's exactly the same form, it's just you filling it in on the tablet or on the computer. And you can upload Word documents on there, and there's a resource area so you can link things in, so you don't have to have loads of writing up there. I have things on, because with the clinical assessments, the mentors have got to grade the students, so I have a grading grid up there, and the explanation about the grading grid is like a Word document that they link in and they can click on if they're unfamiliar with it. So there's lots of potential, lots of things, so don't let the barriers and the things stop you. And that's me.